and welcome to the Flourishing Introvert Talks with me, Jo Rawbone. This is the podcast that celebrates the natural gifts of introverts so that we can flourish in all situations. Episode 152, Fulfilment for Introverts. As the new year dawns, many minds turn to resolutions and goals, and if we're really honest with ourselves, how long we might stick to them for. Stats tell us that less than 25% of people stick to their resolutions until the end of January, and only 8% of people see their goals through to fruition. I've been there, done that, albeit rather half-heartedly. I admit to regularly being one of the 92% who allowed their goals to fall by the wayside. So my mind takes a slightly different tack these days, as you might expect, and I've probably shared with you before. My focus is more on intentions. So rather than focusing on the desired outcome or hard measurable goal, the destination, which, let's face it, is much harder to encapsulate in this age of volatility and uncertainty, I focus on my intentions. These are the energy or spark from deep within us at the start of the process. Intentions give us purpose and often the inspiration or motivation to keep going as they guide who we are being in the moment. And my intentions are rooted in creating and living a fulfilled life, which, whilst being pretty nebulous, is absolutely linked to flourishing. So many of my introverted clients talk about feeling unfulfilled and yet struggle to define what fulfilled means for them. So in this episode, I'll start with sharing some definitions and why it's actually so important to define fulfilled for ourselves. Fulfilment has always been a tricky so-and-so to define, so I'll share what Doris Baumann and Willibald Rusch, psychologists at the University of Zurich, cite as three of the most enduring factors. The first is the extent to which one can pursue projects that personally matter, be their unique self, and lead a true life. The psychologists call this an unfolded self and life. I find that phrase both intriguing and immensely satisfying. The very act of unfolding, being open, and to some extent vulnerable really appeals to me. The second is the perception that one can invest one's own capacities well and can live a meaningful and worthwhile life. A clear case of knowing and playing to our strengths in my mind. Psychologists call this the worthwhile life. And the third factor is making a positive difference, leaving something of value and doing something with one's life that matters to others. Unsurprisingly, they call this positive impact and legacy. I love how these three factors align so beautifully with flourishing, and it's a great starting point when we come to explore what might be missing in our lives. I note with interest that the researchers found that this is a lifelong process, so a journey, not a destination, and that life fulfilment tends to increase with age. I started this exploration with a few questions, the first of which was, does fulfilment come from being or doing? Well, given the factors I've just shared, my conclusion is that it's a blend of both. In the same way that I make a choice to flourish, it seems that also I proactively choose to live a life that fulfills me. So it's mindset, attitude, and actions. Fulfilment is so much more than happiness, and Britannica defines it as the feeling you get because you are doing something that fully utilises your abilities and talents. It's also much more than achievements, and this is probably why the whole goal-setting piece has left me cold. Ticking boxes as done isn't fulfilling in its own right for me. Done, but what was I doing? Did it light me up? Did it really make a difference? It seems then that self-fulfilment may elude those who play small, and this is another reason to develop skills and habits that support us in being all that we can be and in that deeply satisfying way that lights us up. I love this quote from Seneca the Younger on the shortness of life. It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements, if it were all well invested. But when it is wasted in heedless luxury and spent on no good activity, we are forced at last by death's final constraint to realise that it has passed away before we knew it was passing. So it is. We are not given a short life, but we make it short. And we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. Life is long, if you know how to use it. That passage I find very powerful. And the key principle here seems to be about living life consciously, so we don't have regrets at the end. I have wasted too much time in my life, often because I was so depleted that I couldn't do what I knew I wanted to. I'd squander time doing nothing, yet that nothing wasn't replenishing me, and then wonder why I didn't feel better, replete or satisfied. For me, the key lesson here is to be really mindful of my mental and social batteries so I recharge frequently and deeply enough to enable me to do what leaves me feeling more fulfilled, and to stop making excuses. We know that recharging is a necessity for we introverts, and I'm now appreciating that there are more effective ways I can recharge. Let that be one of my intentions for 2023. Checking out and squandering time is not particularly helpful to me, especially at this stage of my life. Maybe that's why it's becoming more front of mind for me right now. As we approached the new year, I shared in a post what I was leaving behind for 2022, and one of the things was that I was leaving behind being too busy for hobbies. Yet what I realise is that most of my hobbies are ways for me to replenish. I love to knit and sew and garden. I often refer to myself as a frustrated artisan, but somehow those things don't make it onto my schedule. And yet when I do them, I feel that sense of satisfaction and fulfilment, both as I'm doing them and once I can sit back and appreciate the results. I know that I'm being true to me and using my capabilities, albeit for what some would consider rather old-fashioned hobbies. The older I get, the less I mind how others perceive me though, and when I make things, especially as a gift, I'm creating a simple legacy, something to leave for others, even as I recharge. How brilliant is that? I've typically thought of my legacy as the empowering of introverts and the shifting of bias that I'm intending to leave behind. But of course, it's much more holistic than that. We can experience fulfillment every day. And if it really is a journey, not a destination, I suggest that we shift our expectations to that end. Imagine feeling genuinely fulfilled on an ongoing basis. Peter Chung suggests questions that help us to distill what experiences we can engage in that will enhance our sense of fulfillment. The questions are: what is something that excites me? The nudge for me here is to think about how I can build something that excites me into my daily schedule. Maybe it's 30 minutes of reading or research to further my understanding. As a lifelong learner, that excites me. The second question is, what is something that makes me anticipate tomorrow? I'm assuming anticipate is a positive thing here, so being mindful of the impact I could be having is something I look forward to. The third question is, what is something that makes me go to bed smiling and feeling complete? I manage this anyway, as I have a gratitude practice that I complete at the end of every day, and there is always something, and usually more than one thing, to feel grateful for, and that leaves me smiling at the end of my day. The fourth question is, what is something that I lose track of time doing? These were easy to think about for me because it's things like knitting or gardening on a personal front, and writing, reading or creating learning experiences on a professional front. I find I can get into flow easily with all of those things. And when I'm in flow, I lose track of time. Fifth question is, what is something that is fun and brings me joy? Always ask yourself, am I having fun doing this? This is a harder one for me, as I do take myself too seriously and didn't play enough as a child. I'm still learning to play, and having fun is something I'm still working on. The sixth question is, what is something that is worth my time and attention? Will I do this thing again? These are great questions, and I intend to use them as part of my reflective practice, in order to make sure the things I've spent my time on were worth my time and attention. The seventh question is, who are the people that I would want to experience more satisfaction from life? Again, that's an easy one for me, my loved ones and the introverts who are finding their flourishing feet. Eighth question, who are the people I would want to have dinner with each week? And these could be people already in your life or the type of people you would like to include in your life story. This is on the one hand quite simple, and on the other more challenging, as I don't want or need to have dinner with big groups, influencers or the rich and famous. I would, however, like to spend time with a few thought leaders, and I'm now going to be exploring how I might symbolically spend more time with them. The final question here is, what is preventing me from expressing gratitude, kindness and joy? Start eliminating the blockers. Again, I'm en route here because I've been eliminating the blockers for some time now, and I'm really satisfied with my progress. As I encounter new blockers, I don't hesitate now to sweep them out of my way. So what do you make of those questions? How might you answer them for yourself? Where are you on the fulfilled front? I strongly recommend you make it a daily practice so it becomes the journey of a lifetime. See you on the path. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, then please subscribe, rate us and leave a comment, because we know that helps other people find the podcast. And if other people find us, other introverts can flourish.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.